everyone, I'm Itzig Spitzen and I'll do the session today for you. Welcome to the Visual Web GUI version 6.4 webinar series. It's the first of four. Today we're going to discuss the ListView enhancements, which is a very exciting feature within the 6.4 platform or new product, I would say. So today you're going to be muted the whole session. I will be the only one who would have sound from my end. And at the end, I'll give time for questions. If you have questions, please write them down and ask them at the end, because I won't be able to refer to questions during the session. I promise that I'll give you time for questions later on. Just when I end the demos. I hope you will enjoy this session, and I think it's a very exciting new feature with the ListView that I'm going to discuss today. So I guess you are all from either Europe or Asia. I guess we don't have North American there, but it doesn't make any difference because we're all, I hope, developers. So I'm going to assume today that you have knowledge in development or .NET development more specifically, and that you know something about Visual Web GUI, because I'm going to base all my demos in Visual Web GUI. So let's simply just get started, and if people will join us later on, I'll be happy to accept them. Okay, so first things first. Let's start with the agenda. Today we're going to discuss first what were the market requirements that brought us to enhance and extend the ListView, why we've chosen the ListView for these tasks, and I mean we could have chosen a data grid view or maybe create a new control that can do what I'm presenting here today, and we've chosen the ListView, and we've chosen the ListView for a reason. We're going to discuss the basic changes that we made. It's a very short one. I'm going to say what two major additions we add to the ListView, and for those additional or changes and additional functionalities, we're going to see what we can do with. So the first thing I'm going to show you is hosting all kinds of input controls and controls in general within my ListView. The ability to create panels for rows and be able to expand and collapse them, and the ability to create hierarchical views, and I mean grouping hierarchical views like hierarchical databases and stuff like that are not supported in the data grid, in the out-of-the-box data grid, which is taken from the WinForms APIs and capabilities. And the ListView is capable of being hierarchical right now, we can create any level of hierarchy with ListView views. And we're going to summarize there, and I'm going to conclude the session in giving you a chance to, providing you a chance to ask any questions you might have. Let's just see. Okay. So, 1 second. Okay. So, what were the market requirements that brought us to extend the ListView? So they were the ability to create read-only but more sophisticated ListView items. And by this I mean we had the ability to list items and to have multi-columns items and add images and icons and stuff like that. But in many cases we wanted to create some more sophisticated views, enable inline editing or extendable editing and stuff like that. Even though the grid or the list will be read-only, we would like to extend it and add things to it, and create a more, I would say, a more sophisticated in terms of each row data. So the ability to embed controls such as buttons, links, they are all sorts of controls that are kind of input controls, but we can add any other type of control. Links, for example, are not input controls, but the ability to contain any control within the ListView freely without having to commit in advance which control goes where and dynamically set it at runtime. The ability to expand and collapse items. I mean, to be able to create a row that looks like a row, but when I press somewhere, it expands to something larger that shows additional details maybe, or enables editing maybe, or drill down into hierarchical views like grouping and additional data. And the next thing would be the ability to create hierarchical grid views, which are not supported with the data grid view and can be supported using the ListView. So those are the reasons why we have extended the ListView. But why have we chosen the ListView itself and not any other control? And the other candidate might be may have been the data grid view, for example. We could have chosen the data grid view, and we chose not to do so because the data grid view is a very structured, I would say, control that kind of takes control over the controls that are hosted within this item. So what I mean by that is, for example, if I add a column combo box or a combo box column where I host a combo box in, the data grid view takes over the control over the events system of this control, enables bidirectional data binding, which is good, but does not let us do all the crazy things that we would like to do maybe with the combo box, and it has a limited set of controls that are integrated within the data grid view. We have plans to extend the data grid view and enable any control hosting, but it will never be like the very light-weighted ListView. So a ListView is lighter in terms of client resources and the ability to extend it on the client side. Another thing would be the WinForms API. The basic WinForms ListView APIs kind of invited us to extend it. For example, we have the ListView item, which can be inherited from, and we've created a new ListView item, which I'll show you later on, that enables you to expand and extend the ListView row, ListView item. Another thing was the ability to create non-grid innovative UIs, and by this I mean it's not the data grid view itself or any list UI can be very square UI, and we would like to create something that enables us to add controls of any type at any row and create maybe enhanced data entry form rather than just a list. So this is possible with something that we've created and enable full customization, and not for example, the data grid view that is, I would say, more restricted. And on the other side, we have the table layout panel, which enables us complete freedom, but with no actual, I would say, any rules of hosting data in. So it's kind of in between the data grid view, which is very restricted, and the table layout, which is completely open to what we would like to do with it. And ListView is commonly used, and we would like to use it more often. We would like to create our own ListView maybe, or many baby ListViews, and they would all behave the same way. We will create an application that uses all of those controls pretty much the same way, but will look completely different. So the same API, the same control will be reused within our application in many cases, and in each case it can look very differently. So the two basic changes we find out that we should do in order to support those things is, one, the ability to contain any type of control within a ListView cell. And what I mean by ListView cell is that I declare at the column level that this column can be control of type control, and then I can host any control at runtime. And what I mean by that is the ability to, one, change the control, to have 2 types or 3 or n types of controls on each in each column, and not having to restrict my structure in advance. The other thing was the ability to expand a row, and this is a very important one because in many cases we have a row, we look at it, and when we want to drill down, what we did by now was, 1, we could open a dialog, 2, we could have created a splitted screen with master details. When I click on a row or when I focus on a row, I have details on another type, on another part of on a different type part of the screen, and there I could have put some could have positioned some controls that are actually showing extended data. But what if I want this UI to be more user-friendly, I would say, or more user interface engineered? And this is probably being able to just expand the row and have more details right where the row is, without having to look at a different place and create different controls for the same thing. So what we did basically is we took the ListView item and expanded it, or I would say inherited it, and created the ListView panel item, which enables us to actually freestyle create a panel and contained within a row or underneath a row, I would say, and expand a row. And then within the panel I can put what I want. I can put input controls, I can put additional data, images, what I want. It's exactly behaving like a freestyle panel. In most of the cases, as you would see in my demo, I will use user control because it's very easy to then populate this panel. But I can put there whatever I want, and I can actually go wild with it and do crazy things with it. And they are all things that are very, I would say, required in data-centric applications when I want all the data to be on the same page without having to split it or things like that. So those are the additions, and why don't we just go ahead and start with the demos. And for that, I will go to Visual Studio. I have here Visual Studio 2008 open already. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new Visual Web GUI application. I guess you already know this trick. It's Visual Web GUI it's Visual Web GUI 6.4 Beta 2E. So if you're trying this at home, just make sure that you're on the right version. So I open a new Visual Web GUI project. Just move this, okay. And what I have here is a standard Visual Web GUI application. I'm going to set this as a startup form, and I'm going to open the form. And within this demonstration, or the entire, I would say, session, all I will need is a list view. So I'm going to drag in a list view, and I'm going to put it here. I'm going to drag it a bit. I'm going to resize it and make it anchored to all directions, so I have it kind of all over, except for this. When I always tend to keep some empty spot, although I'm not going to use it here for buttons and commands and stuff like that. So this is my list view. It's a plain list view. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add columns to it. So let's add 3 columns. Sorry, I forgot to say, I'm showing you now containment of control first. Then I'm going to show panel containment and then hierarchical views. But I'm going to do them all in a row. So the first thing would be containment of controls within a list view. So I'm going to create a new column header, and I'm going to name it C1, which is column 1, just, a name, and I'm going to add one additional header, and I'm going to say that this column is of type And you can see that you probably know text, number, date, and icon from WinForms or from Visual Web GUI. And we have this new control type. And when I say control, I can put any control in. So for example, I can set all my columns to be of type control and then put a label in, and it behaves exactly like, I would say almost exactly like a regular column. So I can play with it and then do other things with it. And I'm going to add, I'm going to call it C2, and I'm going to add another row, and this would be also control. I'm going to call it C3. Okay, so I have 3 rows. Here they are. Those are all, the first one would be a text row, control row, and control row. So, that's nice, but I don't have data there until I add data. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a new function that will fill my my data in list. So let's say fill list. That's a great name. I'm gonna create this function, and within this fill list, I'm gonna do a loop that is adding items to my list. So let's just say for int I equals 0, I smaller than 10, that is enough. At the moment, we just need 10, I plus plus, just a simple loop. And within the loop, what I'm doing is creating a ListView item. ListView item, obj item equals new, nothing special here, new ListView item, and I have a new item. That's one thing I'm going to do. The first item, or the first sub-item, I should say, is a string or a regular ListView column. So I'm going to go to the sub-items and say add, and I'm going to add here a string. I'm just going to format it first. String.format. I'm going to say text, and I'm going to add parameter, which is the I, and that's it. First row, first column, first item of the first column is the text. The other one would be control, and I want to add here a button. So what I'm going to do is create a button first. Button, obj button equals new button. That's it. Let's give it a name. obj button dot text. Not exactly a name, it's a text. And I'm going to format a string here. Format goes just the same as this. I'm going to copy it. Just not text, but button. So it will be the button ith. It's 0, 1, 2, etc. So one other thing I want to do is I'm going to put within the tag of the button, I'm going to link it to the item, because this button is a free button. It's only hosted within the ListView. So it doesn't really recognize where it's located. So what I'm doing here is I'm containing the I, which I can use any applicative identifier, any other applicative identifier, but I put I just for the index of the list that this button represents. So this is a very weak connection applicatively, and I might want to use here applicative data, but I don't have applicative data on my demo, so I'm going to use the I as an identifier. And just one last thing, I want to bind to the click event of this button and have it captured here on my event handler. So within all those buttons, I'm going to reach into here, and then we're going to see how I can do stuff with it and identify where I am or what button was clicked, and so handle this button click. And in order to add it to to the item as a sub-item. All I have to do, just the same as text, all I have to do is add the control. So the control is obj button. I'm going to add it. That's it. Now I have column 3. And here I want to add a combo box. So I'm going to define a combo box. Obj combo box. And it's new combo box, of course. And then I'm going to say, okay, I don't have text, and I have items to select from. So what I'm going to do is create a new object array, I should say, dot items, dot add range. I'm going to use it. It's a shortcut to what I'm trying to do. New object array, and I'm going to put here value 1, value 2, and value 3. That's it. Okay, so I have items in my combo, and I want to do the same thing as I did with the button, referring to the tag. So I'm going to link between the tag and the item. I can do all sorts of things. I just chosen to use the I as an identifier of the row, but I can keep objects there and whatever. You probably know the tag very well. It's commonly used. And I'm going to capture an event. It's not going to be the click. It's going to be the selected index change event. And so when someone changes the item or the specific selected item on a specific combo box from the list, it should go into here, and then I can do whatever I want in here. So that's what I wanted to do here, and I'm going to add it. That's a very important thing to do. Dot add dot subitem, dot add. And I'm going to add this control as well. Obj combo box. Very nice. Now I want to add the item to the list. That's the last thing I want to do within the loop. So I'm going to the ListView 1, which is a great name. I'm just kidding. You have to change it, but this is a demo, so I allow myself to exceed the structure or the recommended structure. And items dot add, and here I have the obj item. That's it. So hopefully here what I'm expecting to see is a list view of 10 items, and at the first column I'm expecting to see the text, second the button, and the third combo box that enables us to select between value 1, value 2, and value 3, and I'm expecting to be able to catch those events, and then we'll see what we can do from there. So let's run it. Debug mode, of course, this time. Okay. Development server, that's nice. Okay. So what do we have here? We have the text as expected. We have the button. I don't know if as expected because you are used to higher buttons, or I would say with higher height and or larger height, and the text is cut. And we have the combo box, which is also very weird because it's kind of cut. But we have the events, and they reach to here as expected. And let's click on button 2, and we reach to here as expected, and that's very nice. But what are we going to do that those rows will look nicer? I mean, the button will not be cut, and the combo will be a bit wider, and those things. So one limitation that is derived from the form that ListView is structured, and it's not a great one, is that we are not able to create different height rows on the same list view. So what I'm going to show you is how to set the global row height. But we don't have a parameter called row height. What we do have is, just a second, what we do have is, when I go to columns, I have those 3 columns that I defined. We have the preferred item height. And since it's kind of a table, and you know that a table, in many cases, selects the largest, I would say, the largest height or the largest width in order to structure the entire row or entire column, this is exactly like a table. What we're doing here is we're setting on each column header the preferred item height. And when it's changed, what happens is eventually the list view is formatted in a way that the largest preferred item height is selected. So if, for example, I say that the button requires 28 pixels, oh, sorry, that's not it, 28 pixels, and this means that the entire set of rows will be 28 pixels high, because we have 0 and 0 and 28, and 28 is the largest. And let me tell you something here, a little tip. It's not recommended to use odd numbers. I mean 27, 25, odd numbers. And this is because some browsers, we use JavaScript to perform some, and CSS manipulations to perform some calculations on the size. And when we use odd numbers, there are differences between the browsers, and then you can have some issues on the edges. So I recommend always to use even numbers for sizes in terms of pixels, so that if we divide things and then multiply them, they will result the same on any browser. So I've chosen 28, and this should be sufficient in terms of being able to see a button that its text is not, that the text is not cut in. Just wait a second. Okay, so we have a button here, and we have this combo box, and as you can see, this time it's not debug mode, so I'm not going into the debugger, but as you can see, those are actually controls. Those are actually controls that are kind of docked in a form of docked field into the column, because we've chosen that this column is control, and when I put control in, it's docked to field. What we can do if we want multiple controls on a single column, we can of course create a user control that contains some other controls, and then it's docked to fill the list item, and then I can do crazy stuff in it. I can put tree views, and I can put whatever I want. If it's usable, I mean, you should always remember that the end user should eventually use it, but we can do crazy things with it. It's very open to new ideas now when it's like that. So here's the thing, and I guess that containment of control is quite understandable right now. One other thing I wanted to explain here is that when I reach to those event handlers, what I have to do, since I use the tag I just have to command this type of thing, and index. I want to know which index was clicked. I'm not going to parse anything. I just want to make sure that I know where I am when it's clicked. So I have the button object, and it doesn't necessarily say where I am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast the sender, which should be, you probably know, the combo box that I'm currently on. So I'm using selected in exchange, and within this I'm going to go to the tag, and I'm going to say, since int is a value object I cannot use as, I'm going to cast it immediately to int. Of course that I'm not protecting myself here, it's not a great code, but just to demonstrate that I'm going to extract the index of the item that I'm at right now. So I'm going to run it. Here it is. I'm going to click button 6. It should be, of course, button 6. It should give us, oh, not button, sorry. Should have gone to combo box 6. Okay. So here I am, and the index is 6. So I know where I am, and I can go ahead and proceed to do whatever I want in it. The same thing goes with the button. I'm going to change it in a few minutes. So I did it. I showed the code here using the selected index change. So that's how this thing works, and this concludes the first demo. The second demo, let me just remind you, would be panel containment. And this means I'm going to be able to expand a row into an additional panel that enables me to host anything in it to extend the row when I want to. So first thing first, I'm going to stop it. In order to do that, I already mentioned it before, we've created a new ListView item of type ListView panel item. So what I have to do here is first change this thing into ListView panel item, and of course create a new panel item constructor, and it says, okay, I don't have empty constructors here. The only overload that I found was this. There are a few overloads, but I would say the thinnest overload is at least providing the panel that I want to host. I can't create an item without first saying what is my panel. So I'm going to create an initial panel here. I'm going to say panel, which is a regular control, obj panel, equals new panel. That's it. And I'm going to say one thing that I don't have to at this point, but I'm going to use it in a few minutes. I'm going to say that the visibility is true. I know that it's the default. I don't have to do it. Yeah, true is not like this. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one, put it here, and this is the control that I'm hosting within the ListView item panel. It should be a panel. Don't play with it. You can put other things in it, but the most I would say structured thing to do here is to put a panel, and then within this panel you can put whatever you want. So I have the panel. That's all I need to do to have a panel, but now it's visible always. And what happens is, when I run it, you will see, what happens is, each column is already expanded. Each row, sorry. So I have this text, and as far as you're concerned, it can be that the column just expanded to be a higher column. So in order to show you where the item ends and the panel starts, I'm going to add grid lines. And then you're going to see that I have item and then a panel and not just items. So let's just go to the designer again and play on this, and grid lines, where are those? Grid lines, great. Here are those. True. I'm going to run it. Okay, here we are. So we have items that ends here and a panel here. So it's obvious that we have some space here that we can use. Okay? The panel can be at any size and can be dynamically changed as well. So you don't have to worry that it's the initial size of a panel. It's not the size of a panel, but it's currently, I would say, like dock top. The height is the initial panel height. So if I change it, it will be higher. But now all the panels are expanded, and I don't want this to happen unless I have specific use for it. But in many cases, I would want a regular list and then the ability to expand the panel if I want. So what I'm going to do here, just for the sake of demo, is I'm going to use the button to expand and collapse the panel. And how I'm going to do that? First, I'm going to get rid of the I and put the obj item, which is the panel item, within the tag. So the button is now aware of, I would say aware. We are aware, but we have the item within the tag, so the button knows which item it is in. So I cannot use this type of thing here, obviously, which I could before, but now I can do this thing. I can go ahead and say I have a ListView panel item. ListView panel item, obj panel item equals what? Equals casting the sender to be control. Can be a button. We know it's a button, but just to be on the safe side, tag as ListView item, ListView panel item. Sorry, view panel item. That's it. So I should have here panel obj panel item. Here I am. So I'm protecting myself, and I want to make sure that I have the panel in hand. And now when I have the panel, I want to do a very short command just for the sake of demo, and then I'm going to extend it. I'm going to say obj panel item dot panel, and I have this property here, and this is the panel that we sent initially. So we have access directly to the panel, and I'm going to say visible equals the opposite of the current visible state. That's it. So now I assume we have, I can assume we have the functionality, the initial functionality that we desire. Okay, so I started in true, and that's not so great. I want to start when it's false. That's one thing I forgot. And now it starts like a regular ListView, non-expanded. And when I click the button, it opens. When I click it again, it closes. So this is the desired functionality I wanted. So just think about it. You can create many things with it. But let's just take it another step ahead and say, okay, so we have this panel, and we want this panel to contain, let's say, some input controls that will enable me to edit the current row. Okay? So I don't have many things to edit here, but C1 is a text that I can edit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new custom, or not custom, a new user control. When I click on control, it's a user control, not a custom control. I guess you all know the difference. And I'm going to create edit panel. This is my control. Great. I'm going to save it. And I'm going to go directly into the designer of this thing. And I'm going to drop here a nice label and a very nice text box. Where is it? Here it is. Just make sure that it's aligned. Here's the text box. Okay. The label text would be column 1 value. Okay, that's enough. And so I have this very simple thing here, a very simple control, and I'm going to make this control a bit more aware of what it's doing by creating a new constructor which accepts a string, and this string will be named str value. And one thing I should not forget, should never forget, is the calling to the other constructor. Alternatively, I could call directly to initialize component, but if I wouldn't do that, what will happen is that the controls will not be drawn, and it happens a lot. So I have this. So I have this control here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a private string, which will be a member, str, and I'm going to name it value. Okay, so within the constructor, I'm going to say mstr value equal, very simple thing, str value. That's it. I'm just going to store a member that is initiated within the constructor. And one other thing, I'm going to make public the string that represent what's currently stored in the text box, because I'm going to store it back to the item. So I need to have this C1 value property in which the getter will say return text box 1 dot text, and that's practically it. No, it's not it. One thing I forgot. I'm going back to the designer. I'm going to double click here and get to the, you're right, load event, and within the load event, one thing I have to do is initialize the text box text with the new value that I got from a constructor. So that's it. That's the entire control that I need. And then I'm going back to the form code, and I'm going to say, okay, so I clicked on a button, and then I want this user control to be shown here within the panel. So I have to check first if I initiated this control here on this specific item or not. So let me just remind one thing here. The panels, if they're hidden, they are not sent to the client. I mean, just a placeholder, it's a very tiny element that holds the place for being able to expand, but the panel itself is not being downloaded. And here I do a server-side progressive action, I would say, that only when I click the button and I want to expand the panel, I'm going to create new control of the type that I'm going to put there, and only then it's going to be sent to the client and per demand. And I want to do it only the first time, so what I'm doing here is just checking. If panel item dot panel, that's one of the ways I can do it. I'm going to count the controls that I have on this panel, and initially, since I haven't put anything in it, should be 0. So if the panel controls not controlled, count. Okay, equals 0. This means that it's the first time. And now what I'm going to do is create an edit panel. Equals new edit panel, and I'm going to use the second constructor saying that I need the value. So I have the sender that was casted to a panel item, and the panel item behaves like a ListView item. So I can go ahead and go to the sub-item.0, which is the first column, column 1 we called it, and go to its text and put it and send it to the constructor. And then I'm going to do one other thing, and this is to add the edit panel to the set of controls that are in there that's currently none. And at the next time we're going to land here, it won't be 0 again, and we're going to get out of this if statement. And then I would say that if I have, okay, so that's not enough, because I need the edit panel to be kind of global within this if. In a second you will understand why. Okay, and I'm going to say, okay, so if I have here an edit panel, oops. If I have here an edit panel, it's not null, I can go ahead and check if we're currently closing. If it's visible, then another click in the event means that I'm about to close or to collapse the panel. So at the close event, what I want to do is go back to this text and update it according to what? According to obj edit panel dot C1 value. And this means that the content of the text box will go back to the text within the item. So that's how I'm going to go ahead and update this. And one other thing I forgot, let's see what happens when I enter the next time. When the first time, I'm going to initialize the panel here, and I'm going to add it to the panel. And then I go back and I'll enter here because the ended panel was just created, and yes, it's visible, and I'm going to get into here, and everything is fine. What happens on the second time when I enter here? The count won't be 0, so I won't have an edit panel. So what I have to do here is, in any other case, not the first time, what I'm going to do is just initialize the edit panel from items.controls 0. And I'm counting here on the fact that I've added just one control. And yes, it's a control, so I have to. It's a control, so I have to cast it to edit panel. So I'm protecting myself, but this happens the first time, this happens any other time, and we're fine, I guess. So let's see if it works. That's the only thing I got left to do. Just run it, wait for a simple list view, click on the button, see the text here, okay, edit it, and click on the button again. Here we are, got it working, and when I click the button again, it takes the new value and enables it again. And again, remember, I know that it's not a common case to have a list view with data and not storing anything on behind this list view. You probably have a data set or a set of objects, but you have the set of event handlers in which you can go ahead and update data behind and do it either in a batch methodology or do it directly to the database or whatever you want. So potentially you can bind to data as well. So if you want to bind this list view to data, you can bind it to data. The only thing you will have to do manually is create those controls, because remember, when I bring the data from the database, the data itself cannot say if it's a button or if it's a combo box or anything like that. So I will have to go ahead and loop on the data that I've got, let's say on the binding source dot binding complete event, for example. And then I should go over the rows and add the controls. And then, for example, if I have a combo box, select the appropriate item when I populate this thing. So I have to do some manual work on the data binding, but it's worth it because it's not so much work, and it enables you very, very, very dynamic views. So you can bind to data, and I know you're going to ask it. So here we are. We have this thing working, and just guess what? We can take this panel and go to the next level and create hierarchical views. And you can just imagine how it's going to work, because I have this panel and I can put whatever I want in it, and I have the events that are opening it, and I can bind to this type of event, and then I don't have to bring the internal data in advance, and just when I expand the row, I can go ahead and populate the internal list view. So what I'm going to do here is create a new user control that contains a list view, and within it I can populate the inner data of the second hierarchy of this grid. And I say grid because it became a grid because I have here data entry and stuff like that. So just let's see how it happens. So I'm going to create a new control, a new user control, of course. I'm going to call it inner list. That's my inner list. It's great. So I'm going to go straight to its designer, and where is it? Oh, that's designer. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, okay, I have here something like this, just to imagine how it's going to look. and I'm going to drop here some kind of panel just to have it a bit indented. Where's the panel? What am I missing? Oh, there it is. Okay, so you probably remember that's the design time initial panel height. You can see it that this is exactly what we got. So I can tune this accordingly to be a bit smaller, but it won't help because I can adjust it. It will help, but it won't set it constantly. I can always set it afterwards. And I'm going to do this thing just to have some kind of padding on the left side. That's it. And then I'm going to drag a list view here, and I'm going to dot fill it. Okay, here I am. So now I'm just going to add a few rows just to understand where it's taking us. I don't know if rows, but columns, I'm sure. So I'm going to add, not very creative today, inner column 1, add inner column 2, add inner column 3. Okay, we're going to, so they are all text columns, but yeah, you can create 3 levels and n level hierarchy because you can potentially put control here and panels here and expand them accordingly and create the panel, this panel to be auto-sized and then expand accordingly, so you can have here very, very, very sophisticated views. So I save this thing. I don't have to do anything with it currently, and I'm going back to my form. So just for the sake of demo, I'm going to say, okay, I just want to know if I'm on even or odd row, and this I'm going to check by obj panel dot index. If its index is what? Mode 2 equals 0. It's an even row. And else, I want to put here something else. I'm going to put the hierarchical view just for the sake of demo so you can see how it's running. And I'm going to do inner panel or inner list, I think. Yeah, inner list, obj list equals obj inner list. I don't want to new inner list. And I do it very simply. I'm going to add this thing to here. Okay, so what I have here is great. So else, this is not so good, but it will not harm it because the controls at 0 will try to cast. You know that as will fail but will not throw an error and will not be able to cast it to edit panel because it will be inner list when it's odd. And then what will happen, we'll have null here and it will not enter to here. So we're fine right now, I guess. So if I haven't done any mistakes, it should work right now. That's even, that's odd. Great. So just to make sure that the list view, or I would say the inner list control, does not exceed the boundaries of the panel, what I can do here, just a quick one to adjust this, is obj inner list dot height equals the container panel dot height minus 10, and this should do the job. Okay, looks fine like this. So we have expandable panels. We can host inner lists. So this means that we have hierarchical views. We can use it to group things, We can do select distinct at the external, at the outer level, and then when I click the button, go ahead and bring all the instances of a specific item or a specific aggregated item, and I can go ahead and drill down tables to go and drill down into a hierarchical structure of tables. And you probably know all of this because data grid views tend to be hierarchical in many cases. So this is the thing, and it works, and it's very nice, I think. And it enables you to innovate as well because it opens up a whole set of new possibilities that weren't there before, and that you now can take and go crazy, go wild with it, and do wild things. Just make sure that they are usable correctly. And just to conclude this session, I would say that within version 6.4, we have the list view that enables pretty much anything. Any list of item UI you can represent with this list view. You can go ahead and create light grids as a light grid with only a few entries. So I suppose that the weight doesn't count. I mean, you can host potentially a list view with many items in it. It's not limited or anything. I would say even more that it's even less limited than the data grid view, which is a heavy control relatively. So you can use it to do grids if you find it good for you, and it's perfectly fine, and it will work, and it will carry many items. Just make sure to create paging, and database paging is preferred, of course, and not just internal paging, because internal pages tend to overload the session memory, because all of the data set, I would say, or the list of objects or whatever is there that you are binding to is kept on the session. So just remember that always. And you can go ahead and create hierarchical views, and it's not just hierarchical grids. It can be data entry views. You can create forms with it, data entry forms, and you can use it to create any extendable list. I mean, data of type master details and extendable, as you just saw, expandable, editable or non-editable data. And one more thing I wanted to add before I give you a chance to ask your questions. We're starting a contest, and you're the first to know. Yesterday I had the same session for the more western location, and I announced that yesterday. But you're the first to know. You can go ahead and create cool stuff using the list view. And we're going to create a contest, and we're going to publish what you've done. And I'm sure that you have great ideas in your applications of what can be done with this new list view capabilities. And so we're going to between the ones that will be most innovative and most I would say usable and great ideas, we will give away at least 1, 2, or 3 licenses and subscriptions to Visual WebGUI. So if you're going to do it anyway, then it's probably worth it, because even if not, because you probably have great ideas and you can implement them. And the most important thing for us is to share your ideas with the community and be able to, let them know what nice things can be done with the list view. So just for now, we can start working. We're going to publish a landing page and a registration page, more than a landing page, that people will be able to register to this contest, or more than register, just submit their codes, and you can go ahead and do it. So I guess that at this point, I will thank you all for your time, and I'm asking you to ask any questions you might have, and I'll do my best to answer. Just go ahead and click on the questions icon and then you can put your question in. I'm going to read it loud so that other people will hear, and I'm going to answer it. Time for questions. Don't tell me you don't have questions. Oh, I'm waiting. Okay. What is the release date? Okay, so what you have just saw, it's Gary. Thank you, Gary, for your question. What you just saw was already there for Beta 2, any Beta 2 actually. Beta 2E is preferable because it contains some fixes to other issues. And so the release date of 6.4 is expected to be, it's like this. Beta 3 is about 2 weeks from now, even less. I think we published the 17th of May. And I guess that about a month or so from this date, we'll be able to release the first release candidate. So I hope this answers your questions. But I think we have, I assume we have, we should ask Roy, but I assume we have a page on a website that shows the roadmap. But if not, I'm going to check it out and let you know. But yes, that's the, I would say the end of June, to be on the safe side, would be the first release candidate. One other question I have here, Mitael Dadav. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing correctly your names because, you know, I'm not sure. And is the ListView control accessible, accessibility or W3C compliance? W3C, we are very close, I would say 99.9% completely compatible with W3C. So the ListView should be in there within this 99%. And so yes, but the accessibility feature is not supported at this point. We're not supporting the accessibility feature, and we're looking into it because we know that many organizations look into it, and there are some browsers that it's almost immediate for IE8. I think it's almost immediate. We're not yet accessibility compliant completely, but we're looking into it. Level AA compliance. I guess I answered this. One more question I have here. Okay, Gary again. Is the grid still recommended for very large data sets, or the ListView is better? The reason I ask is that data grid view, 6.315 slow, blank rows in Safari. Okay, so there are a few questions here. One is the data grid view state in 6.4. So data grid view was, I would say, completely recreated in terms of client resources. It should be very, very good data grid view. So you should use it for things that are good for data grid view type of things. And it should support Safari, and it should support all those browsers. So you can go ahead and use the data grid view where it fits and use the ListView where it fits. I know that now we have some overlapping areas. Just make your best of choice. And I think the ListView is very nice and exciting because you can do pretty much anything with it. But a data grid view is still very automatic, I would say. You don't have to work so hard, I would say, to create the outfit or the outline, the layout of the data grid view that shows some controls. And in terms of data binding, it's more perfect in this sense, I would say. But if you want to create very innovative UIs, you will probably want to use the ListView. But data grid view is sure it's recommended. You can use it. Other questions? 1 second. As far as paging goes, in this case, we have implemented this ourselves, i.e. control to show the page, number of pages, next page, previous. No. We have the UI for it already in. If you use internal paging, you can see it. But there is a way. I will not show it now, but because we don't have time. But there is a way to handle your own events of next and previous page, and just bring those pages and populate them. But you don't have to. Just a second. What's happening here? Okay. You don't have to invent the wheel in this case. So you have the next, the previous, you have the current page that you're in. You just have to create the paging mechanism behind, not the icons and the ability to page. Would it be available in July release? Yes, of course, it's already available. So it's already available. So I guess you mean the ListView enhancements? That's Mital Yadav. Okay, I will guess yes, and Mital will probably go ahead. Accessibility compliance. No, the July release will not yet contain the accessibility compliance. It will be a separate release. We'll have to look into it more carefully and see which browsers need to do what, and then refer to it. We know it. And 6.4, the first release, will not contain it. Okay, I thought I saw some grouping functions. Yeah. We have grouping functions. I'm going to repeat the question. I thought I saw some grouping functions in the companion kit that the other features of this new ListView. Yeah, we have this grouping feature. It's the same as WinForms. What I showed you today is not a WinForm compliant feature. I would say those are extensibility, exciting extensibility features, but the basic grouping would say, okay, I have a group and I want to create some rows underneath it, and those are completely WinForms APIs. So you don't have to add anything to it in order for it to work. Okay. Thank you, Gary. Gary says it looks very powerful. And yeah, you can, I'm repeating once again, you can download it now. You don't have to wait to anything. Those features that you saw today are installed on my PC using Beta 2E. So you can go ahead and use it. There is no report help available on the website for compliance to accessibility or W3C compliance. Yeah, you're right. We haven't published yet something that shows what you're going to do with it or how we're going to handle it in the future. I'm going to make sure that we will. So I'm going to make sure we will. One other thing I wanted to mention here is that the code that I just wrote here, you have some code in the companion kit, but I'm going to create a code snippet that will be available for you guys with this specific code. So for those of you who were in the presentation and just want to take a look once again at the code, it will be available as a code snippet. What level of W3C compliance does it currently meet? It's the full compliance, I would say AA, and it's 99.9%. I know that we have some minor issues there, but you can say we're pretty much compliant with the W3C standards. Any other questions? No questions? Okay, thank you guys for your time. It was a pleasure showing you what we could do with the ListView, and looking forward for the next the rest of the series. We have a few other, I guess 3 more at this series of 6.4 presentations that I will personally go through with you guys, so you can go ahead and register. Okay, thank you very much. If there are no further questions, I will thank you all for your time. I hope you got it, and I'm going to publish this code snippet, and thank you all for your time. No questions, right? Thank you very much all. I thank you for the thank yous. Okay, bye-bye. I'm going to go off now. Bye-bye.